Lauri, the leader, continues to wildly impress on a night in, night out basis. It's next on Locked On Jazz.
You are Locked On Jazz, your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How are you? I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. This is Locked On Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz. And on today's show, we'll discuss the continued development of Lauri Markkanen, the leader, maybe one of the most single important things on this team. Keyonte George getting massively important experience that, frankly, very few other players on this Jazz team have. And we'll talk about the lack of clutch experience. LeBron needs some help from the Lakers. His teammates are not helping him out the way he needs to. And we're like 14, 15 games in. Are the standings set in the NBA? We'll look at all those things as tonight the Utah Jazz play the Los Angeles Lakers in the final in-season tournament group play game. The Jazz win it. They go to 3-1 in group play with a real chance to make the final 8. And so a huge one tonight for the Jazz. I am David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider, and this is Locked On Jazz. It's your daily podcast on the Utah Jazz, giving you insight, expertise, geeky numbers, hopefully making it way more fun to be a Jazz fan each and every day. Thank you for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day. We are free, available on all podcasting apps, including YouTube. And thank you very much to the everydayers who make Locked On Jazz what it is. I strongly suggest if you get a chance today, Locked On Lakers is great. Andy and Brian do incredible work. So if you get a chance on that. All right, big one tonight. In-season tournament game. So let me just set that for a second. Then I want to dig into Lauri. So here's the way it works. If the Jazz were to win tonight and go to 3-1 against, and the Lakers would then go to 3-1, and in all likelihood, Phoenix would go to 3-1. Then the team that has, and because of the fact that the Jazz will beat the Lakers will beat the Suns, and the Suns will beat the Jazz, the way you would divide it out is the team with the best point differential. So right now, the Lakers are plus 42, and the Jazz are plus 19, and the Suns are even. The Suns have 2 more games to play. So the tough one is if the Jazz need to actually beat the Lakers tonight by 23 points. That gets a little tough. Right? So the Jazz actually need to beat the Lakers by 23 points tonight to take a lead in the group. Part 2 of this is somebody is going to go into the West at 3-1 who has not won their group. That's going to be the 4th team. So right now, the Pelicans and Denver are both 2-1 in their group. If you've lost twice, you're kind of out. Sacramento and Minnesota are 2-0 in their group. And they play, I think, tonight in a huge game of group play. And the Warriors are 1-1 with the Spurs and the Kings left. So either the Warriors or Kings will, could actually all end up 3-1 in that group too. They have the same possibility. So then you're looking at point differential. Now the Jazz, I think on the last time I checked the FanDuel Sportsbook are like an 8.5 or 9.5 point dog tonight. So this would be tough. But right now the Jazz point differential is plus 19. If we were to stop today, the Jazz would get the 4th spot. So the Lakers, Pelicans, Kings would all win their groupings, and then the Jazz would be the 4th team in the Western Conference in. So with a win tonight over the Lakers, the Jazz go to 3-1. They have to win by 23 to surpass the Lakers, or 24, actually. Or else they're tied with the Lakers, and then it actually goes to total points scored. So actually, Jazz actually just need to get to 23 because they've scored more points than the Lakers. And so that would, and if they beat the Lakers by 23, they'll still score more. So the Jazz need to blow the Lakers out tonight. If they do that, then Phoenix would have to go beat their opponents in the next 2 games by about 50 points, which it's Portland and Memphis, they could do. So it'll be interesting to see. It kind of gets a little fun here. If the Jazz win, then the next question is, can they win? Do you keep going as much as you can to win by as many as you can in the final minutes? Because your point differential compared to maybe Denver, New Orleans, Sacramento, Minnesota, Golden State, possibly Houston, really could matter. So it's a little bit different than we've ever had before. But that's playing in the final one tonight. All right. I am wildly impressed by Lauri Markkanen. Wildly impressed. He got asked post-game the other night about when it was all about the shot and the foul and whether it was a foul or not. And then someone else asked, which I thought was a really good question, like, well, why'd you lose tonight? Like, what was the reason you lost tonight? Lauri's like not a natural leader. He's been working on this. It's probably the singular most important thing for the Utah Jazz this year is how Lauri develops as a leader. We're going to talk about it a lot. And Lauri, I think true to the core of who he is, answered the question with, well, you just go back and you think about all the plays you could have made. And he talked about his missed free throws. He talked about a few missed threes. He talked about a rotation he missed defensively. That's leadership. That is elite, high-level, terrific leadership. I don't know whether he did it with the mind of leadership, but he just as easily could have said, well, we didn't rotate well enough. This is what we used to get, frankly, all the time. It was we didn't rotate well enough. It was as though if we said we and included ourselves in it, then it was okay. But, like, that's not. Just say I. Just say I didn't defend well enough. I didn't rotate. Like, Lauri's teammate, Lauri scored 30-whatever points and had 38 points and 17 rebounds that night. He very easily could have just been like, well, we didn't do this, we didn't do that, knowing that no one thought he was a part of it because he scored 38 points and 17 rebounds. He did the exact opposite. He did the exact opposite. He said, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do these things. If you're his teammates and you heard that presser, you're like, whoa, this guy just dropped 38 and 17 in front of the media, got asked about why we lost, and talked about mistakes he made. Oh, I'm going harder the next day. The other one about Lauri is his body language and his energy. I've talked about this before, have just been outstanding all year. And what we're asking him to do is crazy, crazy difficult. So, we want Lauri to be a top 10 go-to guy in the NBA. And that's truly not exactly how he's built. So Tim Lacombe pointed this out, that, you know, we go these stretches where Lauri doesn't touch the ball. Tim Lacombe does the pre-halftime postgame show on radio. So, like, for example, there was a stretch in the other night on Sunday where in the last 15 positions, Lauri's 3 scoring touches were an attempt to ISO and 2 offensive rebounds. This is where Lauri, I think, has really been an amazing leader. The way his game is and what we're asking him to do are a little incongruent. And so he could get really, really, really frustrated. So what we're asking him to do is be the go-to guy who takes all the pressure, takes all the heat. But the reality is his game is he needs people to set him up still. He is not an isolation player in the NBA yet. He has not reached that level. In fact, through some conversations with Tim, I then went and did a little research. So Lauri takes 79% of his shots within 0 to 2 seconds of touch time. 0 to 2 seconds. His effective field goal percentage on those shots is 64%. On 2 to 6 seconds of touch time, which he actually did much more on Sunday than I've ever seen him do, he takes 19% of his shots, and his effective field goal percentage drops from 64 to 43. And on 6 seconds or more of touch time, Lauri has not scored all year. Contrast to that to the 2 guys we just played. Devin Booker takes 40% of his shots after 6 seconds of touch time and has an effective field goal percentage of 63 on those, the same that Lauri has on 0 to 2 seconds. Durant takes 42% of his possessions in 2 to 6 seconds of touch time and has a 60% effective field goal percentage. Durant's 31% 0 to 2, 42% 2 to 6, 26% 6 seconds or more. So Durant uses, make it simple, 68% of his possessions are 2 seconds or more. Devin Booker is 80% of his possessions are 2 seconds or more. This is what most of the elite scorers in the NBA are. Embiid, 62%. Doncic is 83%, 2 seconds or more. Steph, who we think of as this catch-and-shoot wizard, is still 54%, 2 seconds or more. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 86% 2 seconds or more. Jokic, who's a little of everything, is 46% 2 seconds or more. Giannis is 75% 2 seconds or more. Donovan is 75%. And Lauri is 79% 2 seconds or less. So he does not have the makeup of an elite scorer. What's the impact of this? I'll touch on that as we continue on this Tuesday edition of Locked on Jazz. Today's show is brought to you by my friends over at Murdoch Hyundai, located at 4646 South State Street, also located in Logan and Linden. So the Hyundai lineup of cars is incredible. The SUVs start with the Palisade, which is just the King Poobah, and goes all the way down to the Kona, which is a small, zippy, with the Tucson and the Santa Fe in between. They got a bunch of really cool options. They got the hybrid. They have the electric that is partially electric, partially gas. So if you're doing your small commutes, it's electric. Great lineup of cars, great safety features, great pricing. Also, the Sonata and the Elantra, and then the Ioniqs are the ones that are winning all the awards. So here's what I've got for you. I think you should look at Hyundai if you're looking for a new car. Then you decide what your own taste is. But I've got a VIP meeting set up for you in Logan, in Linden, or in Murray at 4646 South State Street. So email me first at dlock09@gmail.com. That's dlock09@gmail.com so that I can get you your VIP meeting over at Murdoch Hyundai and give you the locked on every day or treatment that you deserve. So email me dlock09@gmail.com if you're in the market for a car right now. See what you can get over at Murdoch Hyundai. We'd like to help you out and give you that elite experience that you deserve. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It is America's #1 sports book. It is FanDuel, and FanDuel.com has a great deal for you right now. By the way, Jazz, I think it's bounced all over the place. Tonight on FanDuel, I was checking it out earlier, and I was listening to Locked on Lakers this morning, and they mentioned it. I think the Jazz, while we need to win by 23 to take a commanding lead, we are now 7.5. Wow, it's moving the other way. 7.5 point dog with the over-under at 23.5 in tonight's game over on FanDuel. FanDuel is the official sports book of Locked On. It is the #1 sports book. And here's the deal. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. So that's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in the action. The app's easy to use, spreads, players, props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, the official sports book of Locked On. I want to see one other line tonight. Phoenix, by the way, is a 13-point favorite over Portland, so that matters in the margin. And I do not seem to be right. That Sacramento-Minnesota, that game I thought was taking place tonight is not. So I apologize for that. Go to FanDuel.com/locked on. All right, so thank you very much for making Locked on Jazz your first listen of the day. By the way, if you've not checked it out, the new first ever 24/7 sports stream on YouTube is Locked On Sports Today. Get the biggest stories from the local experts on Locked On, plus our national stories all day long on YouTube at Locked On Sports Today. If you're one who throws the TV up and has ESPN in the background, Stephen A. yelling at you the whole time, go throw Locked On Sports up. Stephen A. is my guy, but people don't know that story. I hired Stephen A. to be like my NBA expert in 1994, maybe. Yeah, I'm old. So is he. Yeah, no, he was brilliant the whole time. He always has been. So anyway, all right. So what's the impact of this on Lauri? And this is where I think his leadership has been amazing. Is that he doesn't dictate whether he gets his shots off. Like, you just go give the ball to Devin Booker or Kevin Durant, they're going to go get a shot. Lauri doesn't do that. So Lauri is reliant on coming off pin downs, guys getting open, guys breaking the defense, kicking it out to him, letting him have opportunities. He's not like 20. We run 20 isolations with him all year long. That's all we've done. And Will knows this is where he needs to develop, but this is not his game. Like, in contrast, Luka's run 171, Shai's run 150, Jason Tatum's run 150, Giannis run 140, Julius Randle's run 141 to the demise of the Knicks. Kevin Durant's run 133, right? Like, Lauri's in the group of like 104th in the amount of isolations he's run this year. He's not terrible at it. He's learning how, at 7 feet tall, how to pop over someone. I think he ranks about 36th at one point of possession in about the 58th percentile of guys who isolation. It's not his natural game. So it has a lot of impacts. One is we keep talking about, well, Lauri's next step is to create for his teammates. Well, if you only have the ball for 0 to 2 seconds, you're not creating for your teammates. He doesn't have time to bend the defense. So as great as he is right now, and he's amazing, he's not a star that's opening up opportunities for other players yet. And he's not a star yet that can go get his own shots. So half-court offense for us in a game like Phoenix, when they're just body-hugging Lauri all night, which is what everyone's going to do, it gets really, really hard. So this is where Lauri has to develop and work on his game. It also is where Lauri's leadership has been incredible because he's staying with games, even on nights where he's not getting certain stuff. He's creating other opportunities. He's not forcing shots. He's keeping a great demeanor, and he's being an amazing leader. But this is really, 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 really important when we think of Lauri Markkanen. Let's watch this number. Tim Lacombe did a great job in finding this. One is, can he get more efficient when he's had the ball for more than 2 seconds? 2, can he start creating for teammates when he's had the ball for more than 2 seconds? And how much more often does he suddenly take a shot after 2 seconds? The other one that Will Hardy talked about in the presser the other day is like, hey, if we ISO Lauri at the nail, which is at the free throw line, or one of the elbows, which is the edge, that's okay. We go give him an isolation outside the three-point line. We're not playing to his strengths. That's not really what he does. That's probably not going to serve him particularly well. So that's an interesting kind of way to look at this, is that as you develop this skill, you just, we have these stretches where Lauri needs more shots. How does Lauri get more shots? We hear the media ask all the time, how does Lauri, but we don't hear, what we don't hear is anything of the sort of, an understanding of, well, okay, maybe it's not actually in Lauri's game to just go get more shots. So we'll see. The last 2 nights for Keyonte George are wildly important. And that is because he's playing clutch minutes in big-time moments that can't be replicated. And one thing I think we have to remember about this team is actually how limited everybody is in that regard. So we talked about this at some point last year, but I thought it was worth bringing back up today. Jordan Clarkson last year and speaking of Will Hardy, by the way, the Holly Row Front Row podcast with Will Hardy should drop today on Jazz Plus, an in-depth interview with Will Hardy. So make sure you go grab that. It'll be on Jazz Plus for Jazz Plus members. Holly did an incredible interview with Ryan Smith, 53-minute extravaganza. That's just so long. I was so impressed. 53 minutes of interviewing someone is like, and to keep it rolling is seriously like, it's work. It was good. Most interesting thing to me about that interview was Ryan time at Korea and his time there and the impact that had on his life. But anyway, Will Hardy today comes out on Jazz Plus, so make sure you grab that. So what I was saying about Keyonte is look at the contrast to the guys we think are our veterans. So we think our veterans, I think, are Clarkson, Markkanen, and Olynyk, right? Maybe John Collins also. So last year, Jordan Clarkson played 29 clutch games. Yeah, so what? Okay. Clutch games are games within 5 points in the final 5 minutes. Previous year, Jordan played 16. The year before that, he played 11. So Jordan played more clutch games last year than he had in the 2 years combined. In the 3 prior years, Jordan had only played in 38 clutch games. It wasn't what his role was. You can be really, really good and go long stretches of your career where you're not playing in clutch games. And then even more, like Keyonte took shots and is involved in it. Jordan took 67 clutch shots last year. In the previous 4 years, he only took 62. Lauri Markkanen, going into last year, this is crazy. 59 of his 64 clutch shots were threes. Going into last year, in his career, 59 of his 64 clutch shots were threes. All he did in the clutch was stand out there and wait for a shot. Last year, he took more shots in the clutch than he had in his entire career combined, and only 27 of the 65 were threes. So brand new experience. In the final 2 minutes of his career, Lauri had taken 17 shots, 14 of them were threes. Last year, only 6 of 15 shots were threes. And again, he took more shots in the final 2 minutes last year than he took in his entire career. Kelly Olynyk last year took 36 shots in the career. In the 3 previous years combined, he had taken 25. He had 15 assists. He had 8 in the 5 previous years. So we've got veterans on our team that are just getting the experience of playing late game clutch moments for the first time in their entire career. Last year, now they're building off of it. And here we got Keyonte getting them as a rookie. Massively important. And handling it. Making mistakes, but handling it. It's also worth remembering tonight, or frankly the other night, like how many clutch moments do you think Kevin Durant and Devin Booker and Eric Gordon have played? Right? Like sometimes we got to remember in perspective of like who we are. Here we're going to have a clutch lineup closing the game of John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson, Keyonte George, maybe Ochai Agbaji playing clutch for the first time in his entire life, up against Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and then tonight against LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Like, just because this is fun, and I wanted to talk about LeBron, is like, I wonder what that number is on LeBron. Right? Like, that's got to be it's got to be a crazy number. LeBron James, who, by the way, tonight will play his 1,435th game. 1,435th game. I mean, and he is unbelievable. And the Lakers have got to give him some help because he is going to die in a vine here pretty soon. It is insane what he is doing. He should be like the MVP of the league right now. LeBron has played 832 clutch games in his career. 832 clutch games in his career. Wow. You want a crazy number? So the Lakers are the worst first quarter team in the NBA. This is why the Lakers need to give LeBron some help. So they've had to come from behind. They're the number 1 clutch team in the league right now. LeBron, in the final 5 minutes of a close game this year, is 15 of 21 from the field. 15 of 21 from the field. At 77 years old. It's madness. All right, the Lakers need to give LeBron some help, and are the standings set? We'll look at both of those things. By the way, tonight's game, 8 o'clock start for you, available on Sirius XM. All local home team broadcasts are available on Sirius XM this year. Make sure you go subscribe to Sirius XM. If you have a smart speaker and you're subscribed, you can just tell your smart speaker to play Utah Jazz basketball on Sirius XM. Kind of a cool little feature there from Sirius XM, and a good way to listen to myself and Ron, which I would always appreciate. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Daily fantasy sports made easy and fun. So rather than going up against sharks or a bunch of people that are got computer programs and this and that and all these things, the way PrizePicks work is you pick 2 or 6 player stat projections, pick more or less, and watch the winnings come in. So a minimum of, as you think about it, you can just go find, and you have a chance to win a few more. You just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their stats. That easy, that fun. Who do you think's going off tonight? Somewhere in the NBA, or you can get involved with NBA and NFL at the same time. Steph, Anthony Davis, Luka, KD. Players, PrizePicks even offers reboot policy. So in the event of one of your players getting injured in football or basketball and they exit the game in the first half and do not return in the second, the player is rebooted, and PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with that injury insurance policy. Go test your skills. Have a really good time. PrizePicks is really simple to play and a great deal of fun. Quick withdrawals, easy game play, number 1 daily fantasy sports app. PrizePicks, here's the fun part. If you use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA, you get a 100% deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNBA for a deposit match up to $100. Thanks so much for making Locked On Jazz your first listen of the day, and thank you to the everydayers that make Locked On what it is. Jazz tonight, 8 o'clock. game is no local television, so it's only local radio tonight. Ron Boone and I are on. Otherwise, it's a nationally televised game. So please join in, sync to the national broadcast, listen to your local guys who know what's going on. In the meantime, make sure, by the way, Jazz Plus has all these great programs. So the Holly Rowe 50-minute sit down with Ryan Smith, the Shoot Your Shot with Will Hardy's terrific. So if you've not checked those out, take the time, load your app up on Roku, and go watch it. Super easy to do. All right. LeBron's incredible, and the Lakers need to help him. There's a lot of guys on this Laker team, Austin Reeves, others, that are people are super excited about. On the opening night of the year, LeBron James played 29 minutes, and Darvin Ham gave this entire talk about the fact that LeBron James was not going to play over 30, maybe a few here or there, but we've got to manage his minutes. And then they got to the fourth quarter of the Phoenix Suns game in the second game of the entire year, and it became completely obvious that they couldn't take LeBron off the floor, and he played all 12 minutes of the fourth quarter. And then the next night he played 11 minutes of the fourth quarter. And the next night he played 9 minutes of the fourth quarter. And the next night he played 11 minutes and 36 of the fourth quarter. And then he played all 12 against Miami and all 12 against Phoenix and 10:30 against Sacramento and 10:50 against Portland and all 12 last night against Houston, in which he scored 13 points in the fourth quarter alone. He has had double-digit scoring games in 4 fourth quarters. He has had 9 or more fourth points in 7 fourth quarters. He has scored over 7 points. He is averaging 9.2 points a fourth quarter. He is shooting 66% in fourth quarters with going 6 of 19 from 3. I think he's the greatest player to ever play the game. Okay? Like, Michael might have been a better winner, but he's the greatest. He's 39. He can't do this. They have to get him some help. They should be in like a dead flat panic about this. There's a track record of a few years now that if LeBron does this, he goes on these runs and then he gets hurt. They're 16 points per 100 possessions better when LeBron is on the floor offensively, and 13 points per 100 possessions better when he's on the floor defensively. The Los Angeles Lakers are plus 28 points per 100 possessions when LeBron James is on the floor compared to when he's off the floor. 28! He should be the MVP of the league right now. That's craziness. They literally have built a team that is still 100% dependent on LeBron James being on the floor every minute of the night. It's actually relative insanity that they're negative 7.1 when Anthony Davis is on the floor this year. They're minus 3 points. They're 3 points per 100 possessions worse offensively and 4 points worse defensively. I mean, LeBron, it's fine. It's a small sample size, but it's not. There should never have been a 12-game stretch for the Los Angeles Lakers this year where this took place. They are driving him into the ground out of desperation because they have to get regular season wins because they're just not that good. They're 8-6 with a -1 differential, and they have the greatest player in the history of the game, and they're driving him into the ground at 39 years old. It is astronomical to look at what LeBron is doing. You can look at it like guys who've played 20 years in the league. You can look at it by age. Like the other guys who did this, Paul Pierce was on his wheelchair. Kevin Garnett was a shadow. Guys who've played at this age were shadows of themselves. This dude is carrying his team still. And not only carrying it, like they're desperately dependent on him. It's madness. Absolute madness. Their offense ranks 23rd in the NBA. It's total madness. Here's even more madness. They're the second most common transition team in the NBA. So like LeBron's running. That's how they're surviving. They're surviving by running. It's absolutely incredible. They run 6% more when LeBron's on the floor than when he's off the floor. And he's 90. Their half-court offense is 17 points per 100 possessions better when LeBron is on the floor than when he's off the floor. 17! It's craziness. Austin Reeves has not been the all-world put-a-Hollywood star on the walkway player that they thought he was going to be. D'Angelo Russell's been fine. Cam Reddish has been a nice surprise. Christian Wood, Rui Hachimura, Taurean Prince, they're kind of all who they are. They didn't change just because they put on the purple and gold. Some of this is just incredible. LeBron, who's been criticized for years for taking defense off, their defense is 6 points per 100 possessions better in the half court when LeBron's on the floor. It's astronomical. All right. If I told you the NBA standings in the Eastern Conference were going to finish in the following way, what would you say? Boston 1, Philly 2, Milwaukee 3, Miami 4, Orlando 5. Indiana 6, or New York 6, Indiana 7. They're tied. Cleveland 8, Atlanta 9, Brooklyn 10. I kind of buy it, right? The 5 teams in the East to not make the play-in, Toronto, Chicago, Hornets, Wizards, Pistons. I think we might be 10 for 10 already in the Eastern Conference. Now, Toronto and Brooklyn are tied at 6 and 7 each, so they're tied, so it's a little hard to tell. But I actually think the Eastern Conference 10 playoff teams are set. Brooklyn or Toronto's going to be the other one. They're tied. And yeah, maybe New York and Cleveland will knock Orlando and Indiana out of 5-6 and get in. They'll be in the play-in. And the top 4 will be the top 4. What about in the West? If the season ended with Minnesota 1, which is I projected last year, Denver 2, Oklahoma City 3, stunning. Dallas 4, Sacramento 5, Lakers 6, Suns 7, Rockets, Pelicans 8, 9, Warriors 10. With the 5 teams not making the playoffs being the Clippers, Jazz, Grizzlies, Blazers, Spurs. So probably you're throwing the Clippers into the playoffs, right? And they've won 2 in a row. And you're taking out probably the Rockets or the Pelicans. I kind of think we have 19 of the 20 teams that are going to be playing in the play-in set in the playoffs in the standings already. Isn't that crazy? Kind of crazy. Thank you very much for tuning in to Locked On Jazz. I have a great fun doing the show. I hope you enjoy it as well. We will now send you and yourself over to the first ever 24/7 national sports stream on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today. Thanks very much for being a part of Locked On Jazz, your team every day.